Today we're actually looking at a text that makes a pretty radical claim about how we handle our worst days. We are diving into the Rhapsody of Reality's daily devotional by Pastor Chris, specifically the entry for February 25th titled Forever Victorious.
Right, and the title alone feels like a bit of a setup, honestly, because the text actually starts by admitting the exact opposite. It opens right up with Psalm 34.19, acknowledging that many are the afflictions of the righteous.
Yeah, it's a really strange juxtaposition. You have this upfront admission that persecutions and, unexpected crises are real things you will face. But then the text immediately pivots to this concept of being forever victorious. So our mission is to figure out how the author reconciles those two things, the reality of pain and this promise of absolute victory.
I mean, it really hinges on a shift in your timeline. The text argues that for the believer, victory isn't something you fight for, it is something you fight from. That seems to be the faith posture the author is really advocating for here. They rely heavily on Romans 8.37, the description of believers as more than conquerors.
Yes, and the text takes that phrase quite literally. It implies you effectively conquered the trouble before it even showed up at your door.
Exactly.
And it connects that directly to John 16.33. Jesus says, I have overcome the world. So the author builds this sort of transitive property of victory. If Jesus overcame the world and you are in him, then by definition, the world is already overcome for you too.
So basically, when a problem arrives, at least in the view of this text, it is arriving to a fight that has already been fixed.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And that leads to this really interesting linguistic breakdown the author does with the phrase came to pass.
Oh, I really like this part. It plays on that classic King James biblical phrasing. And it came to pass. We usually read that as just a fancy old way of saying, then this happened. But the devotional argues we should read it literally. It references Luke 22.53, the hour of darkness, and suggests that challenges simply come to pass.
Right, they come to pass.
As in, they did not come to stay. They came to pass through. They are transient.
That reframing is just huge. If you really believe a crisis is just a temporary visitor, it completely changes how you emotionally respond to it. Which actually brings us to the central visual metaphor the text uses, the victory parade.
Right. This is drawn from the Message translation of 2 Corinthians 2.14. It describes God leading believers in a perpetual victory parade.
And the context is key here, because that phrasing evokes a Roman triumph. The war is effectively over, the general is returning home, the enemy is in chains. And if you are in the parade, you aren't fighting in the trenches anymore, you are just walking in the celebration.
Exactly. It reframes the battle as a finished historical event, and this is where the text gives some very specific, practical advice on what not to do when things go wrong.
Yes, it warns against that midnight introspection, where you lie awake asking, did I make a mistake or is God punishing me? The author argues that kind of self-audit during a crisis is actually a trap.
Because it shifts your focus from the victor back to the victim. Instead, the source points to James 1.2 and suggests you should count it all joy.
Which usually feels like impossible advice, honestly. Being happy about a problem.
It's not happiness about the problem, though. It is joy about the outcome. The reasoning is that you were born a victor. If you know the end of the movie, you don't get stressed during the scary parts. You are supposed to maintain that attitude of dominion because, according to the text, you simply cannot be overwhelmed.
It really calls for a total refusal to be a victim.
It does. The devotional wraps up with this powerful assurance from Isaiah 43.2. It promises that when you pass through waters, they will not overflow you, and when you walk through fire, you will not be burned.
And it anchors that guarantee in 1 John 4.4.
Yeah. Greater
is he that is in you. The bottom line is certainty.
The text wants the reader to be absolutely certain that victory is the only possible conclusion.
It's a really bold way to move through the world. So here's a final thought for you to chew on. If you accepted the idea that you are currently walking in a perpetual victory parade, that the victory is already won, how would that change the way you walk into your next crisis or difficult meeting?
It definitely changes the posture from survival to confidence.
For sure. That's your call to action. You can find more information on this source material, The Rhapsody of Realities by Pastor Chris, on their website, www.rhapsodyofrealities.org.
We'll catch you next time.
We trust you were blessed by this episode. To gain unlimited access to Rhapsody of Realities by Pastor Chris, please download the Rhapsody app using the link myapp.rhapsodyofrealities.org. God bless you.